right. All right, I'm recording.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to an unexpected podcast. I'm not going to give the other folks on here time to babble before we launch in. I figured somebody hit record, so I figured I had to start talking.
Right.
Um, so we've got Alisher in Pennsylvania. We've got Evan, who is in the next room because he is back from college, or at least temporarily. Then heading back to take some exams, and then back again for the summer. And we are going to talk about Hobbit good armies. Although I guess some stuff has happened. We've seen new stuff
We're
being
going to talk about
released.
Lord of the Rings good armies.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said Hobbit good armies. No, yeah, we're gonna talk about Lord of the Rings good armies. I
Yeah,
don't think we
the
need to go
the
back over the Hobbit
The
ones quite
Hobbit
yet.
good armies were so great that we're
We're gonna do them
reviewing them
twice.
twice.
Yeah. But yeah, some stuff happened. So we got I think since the last time we recorded, although I think the last one that we recorded isn't out yet. Um,
It's
we need
uploading
to
right now
uploading right now. Okay.
as we speak.
So since the last time we recorded, and we're not one of these podcasts that like jumps online to tell you what shows up on Warhammer Community, but we're getting some new models. We're getting a catapult troll, which seems fun. We're getting a new ant. Is it? It's beach bone, right?
Yeah.
Beach bone, birch
It,
beer,
we
something
we
like that.
did Beachbone, and
Beach
I
bone.
think he's the Ent that we didn't have a model for, right?
Right. We had a profile, but not a model for. His model looks really cool. Um,
Yeah.
Can't wait to paint that up. Have we gotten anything else that's
Is
coming? I mean,
Imrahil? I don't remember if Imrahil we talked about him.
Imrahil. Yeah, I think Imrahil was out the last time.
We didn't talk about him, I don't
Yeah.
think, but
Well, I mean,
we're getting an
there's
Imhel.
yeah, I mean, there's a new Imrahil model. I mean, on these are models for profiles that we already have, so there's not that much to talk about.
I don't
That's new
think
on them.
I would assume we don't have Imrahil, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's true. We don't know what Imrahil's profile is going to be, but we we've seen him before and have a sense of what he does. So um, who knows
he
whether
will
he'll
be
still have
in
the 12-inch
the
banner there.
third book.
Yeah, which we also have seen. We have seen those. I guess the other two important things is we've seen that the new third book is coming and seen the cover, and we've seen that the match play guide is coming with I guess
Imagine
24 scenarios.
Imagine how depressed fiefdoms players will be if like Imrahil comes out with this shiny new model and he's like 200 points, 3-inch banner, all the same stats as before. I
Yeah,
think they might just explode.
but it's a pretty model.
It is a pretty model.
Um, so yeah, that's actually a good model to reissue because I was never a big fan of the original Metal Imrahil. I have it, but he looked pretty comic booky in the original metal model, so hopefully this one will
He's
be better. It
also
looks pretty good.
wearing his helmet in this pose, right?
I I th- I had the impression, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't have the thing in front of me. I had the impression that it's going to be one of those models where we get two heads with it.
It's cool.
Um,
So you
so
can field smart Imrahil that wears his helmet like a good boy, or dumb Imrahil that
dies
is
quickly.
ready to get smacked in the face. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Um, yeah. All right. So some new stuff is coming. But why don't we? All right. So who's got books? Do all three of you, or all three
I
of us?
have.
I have a book. Do the other two of you have a book?
I have a book.
You have a book. All right. Um, all right. So the first up in this list is, of course, the Fellowship. Um, do either of you have any preset thoughts on the Fellowship that you want to share, so that you want to start out with it?
No, I can read it.
No.
I don't mind reading
All right. Go ahead. Go ahead and read us the Fellowship in all your strident Tolkien-esque, um, effusive glory here.
it. Really hyped up the Fellowship here. All right, we got
You
Gandalf the
need
Grey.
you need to speak with a deep voice.
Yeah, yeah. I got to give my best Gandalf impression. Um,
Yes.
that's probably not gonna happen. Sorry, guys. We have Gandalf the Grey, who's a hero of legend. We have
Deep
Aragorn.
voice.
Aragorn Strider. We're never actually
Alisher,
gonna get
submit
through.
to peer pressure.
Yeah, we're never gonna get through the fellowship because I'm gonna be too awkward to start speaking in a weird voice.
Deep voice.
We have Aragorn who can take a bow, Legolas, Gimli, Boromir who can take a horse and shield. That's nice. At least he can be mounted. You can take Frodo, who can take the Mithril coat and Sting, Samwise Gamgee, Merry, Pippin, Bill the Pony, and the special rules. The Fellowship apply, blah blah. So long as Frodo is alive and on the battlefield, friendly Fellowship models gain the Fearless special rule. Additionally, a Fellowship army can never be considered broken whilst Frodo is alive, even if he escapes the battlefield in scenarios where this applies. Friendly models within 3 inches of another friendly Fellowship model may reroll a single failed wound roll when making strikes. Friendly Fellowship models gain the Woodland Creature and Mountain Dweller special rule. Do any of the models in the list like give a banner effect or no?
No, I don't believe so. I keep on thinking,
Bill?
oh,
What?
wait a minute, maybe Bill does. Yeah, I meant to look up Bill's profile, and
Well,
didn't. Why don't I
let's
do that
see.
now? Let's see here.
Friendly Fellowship model who ends their activation in base contact with Bill, the pony may re-roll a d6 on a 5 plus. The
Friendly Fellowship models treat Bill the Pony as a banner.
Oh, okay, we got a banner. All right, that's
Well,
Mm.
he's
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 not
not a
a
banner.
yeah,
banner.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We get the re-roll.
he's a banner
So as
effect.
as we will learn in the next list, while he isn't a banner, some random girl who's wandering around is a banner. But yeah, I don't know why he doesn't count as a banner. That seems like a very obvious thing to give him because that's his whole point is to be a banner. Um, yeah.
Yep. Um, and he's got 2 fate points, so he can stick around. Um, even though he's only a pony. Yeah, boy, Bill the Pony is one of these guys where I don't quite understand how he's supposed to work. He can charge, can he? He's like a model like any other. Um, says,
Alisher, do you still have his? Oh,
I'm
Dad,
sorry.
you have his. Okay.
Um,
yeah, I'm looking at his profile.
he has
Is it
Iron
he can't
Shot.
strike blows?
I think he has it. He
Doesn't
has
say that.
a hand weapon.
He has iron shod hooves.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
interesting. It must have been last edition when he had a rule that was like it's only a pony or something where he couldn't strike blows.
No, actually, because in the last edition, I had a wonderful experience with Bill the Pony, where he actually wounded Bjorn. Bjorn Bjorn charged him, botched. Bill won the fight, and then wounded Bjorn.
Well,
Nice.
that's embarrassing.
Yeah,
Those iron shot hooves, man.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, Bjorn the bear took an iron shod hoof to the face. Um, but all right, so I mean, I played against this once. I played against this with I think Defenders of Edoras, and to me at least, this list kind of has all the pluses and minuses of the Fellowship in the old edition, which is, you have your heavy hitters. You can never afford to buy Gandalf. Um, and then you have a bunch of useless hobbits. Um, and that are like the problem with the list. And you know, you have your hitters who try desperately not to get surrounded, um, where if they botch they die, and then you're trying to like keep your little hobbits safe from the rest of the army. And if you end up in a scenario like domination where you have to be in several places at once, you're kind of screwed.
I do find it funny that Boromir is the only model in the list that can take a horse, and I assume exclusively because if he didn't have a horse in this list, there would be no list that would use his model with a horse, and then you wouldn't be able to use his model with a horse. Because, like, he was seen with a horse at the same time as, like, I think at least Legolas as well was also seen with a horse because they were shown, like, riding into Rivendell.
Do
And then he never used it again.
do we get a? I can't remember if we get a scene where Legolas is riding in. I remember Boromir certainly riding in. because that's the famous scene where they didn't actually show him what the Rivendell set looked like. They just like put him on a horse and said like ride through there, and then filmed him as he came in and just looking around, going, "What the hell is this?" Um, but I don't know if we got the horse with Legolas. But in any case, I think you're right. This is, I think, the only list in which you can get him. You can get Fellowship Boromir on a horse.
Yeah. I mean, he's good. He's
Yep.
Fellowship Boromir, and he's, I think, either less points or the same points as he used to be. His horn is now an actual war horn as well, so +1 courage, and he's fight 7. So he's quite strong. Um, yeah, I mean, if you cover up the right side of the army composition page and only look at the left side, the army looks pretty good. If you start using some of the guys on the right side, um, they become liabilities. Um, and also Frodo, of course, has been nerfed severely because of the changes to the ring, where now if he's fighting somebody uh, with somebody else in tow, which is usually what you do, you take a big guy and Frodo and charge into um, some sort of hero. Uh, then they wouldn't have their fight value anymore, and the ring won't take effect. So Frodo's just not super great. But he does
Although
prevent the army from breaking.
he prevents the army from breaking, and frankly, he behaves like Frodo in the movies, as opposed to the um, spirited assassin's assistant that he used to be in the last edition. Um, I don't know. Has anybody else but me fought this army or fought with it? Okay.
I
That's
mean, just my initial take, it looks very, very similar to last edition.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Um, so I don't know. This is kind of lowish end of playable, but still playable.
Yeah.
They're in the hands of a good player with the right scenario. This can actually be a decent army, but you in the hands of a good player playing somebody who's kind of not a good player. Um, this army can win games, but if you're playing somebody who's got like a decent army with a decent number of warriors who knows what he's doing with them, this shouldn't be a problem.
for the sake of listeners who have not seen our previous episodes, go over what the rankings are again.
Oh, right. Okay. So we're going through and we're divvying up armies into four tiers of army. Um, starting from the bottom to the top, we've got unplayable, aka useless, which is an army where if you take it to a tournament, nobody's going to have fun. You're not going to win any games. Your opponents aren't going to have fun because they're going to run over you. But it's just not going to work. Then we have playable, and playable are armies that have strengths, have weaknesses. You can bring them to a tournament. You're going to win some games. You're going to lose some games. Um, you're not going to win that tournament unless everybody else competent also takes playable lists. And as we discussed in the last podcast, when we were talking about Hobbit evil lists, which I think we all put in the playable category, to a certain extent, the playable army lists are what we want to see, because the playable armies all have, like I said, strengths and weaknesses. And if you put playable lists against playable lists, you're going to have a fun game, because the result is not going to be either preordained or kind of stacked against one side or the other. It's you know if you're playing a playable list against a playable list, the winner should be the the player whom either the dice favor or had, or was the better player, which is what you want. Um, and then above playable, we had the competitive lists. And the competitive lists are the ones that, in the hands of a good pilot, are going to beat the playable lists and certainly beat the unplayable lists. Um, but, occasionally, if things go wrong, a playable list will beat a competitive list. Um, or you can have a really good pilot piloting a playable list and beat a competitive list. Um, and then kind of at the top of the pecking order are what we're calling the dominant lists, which have a decisive advantage over just about everything. So this is the Eagles. This is the Garrison of Dale, um, and or at least at some points levels. And they're going to be, I think, a couple of dominant lists that we're going to see either today or if this stretches to 2 days in the Lord of the Rings. But these are the ones where if you're a good player and you take it to a tournament, you should win. Or unless you lose a battle to another dominant list. So those are the pecking order. So I think Fellowship we're putting kind of on the low end of playable. At least I am. I don't know where other folks are putting it.
I would agree.
Okay.
You could win a 3 game with it, I think. Tournament.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like it, in that I don't think it's I think of all the all hero lists you're gonna take, this one's pretty flat and boring, and not overly strong. But I think by virtue of being an all hero list, especially when we get the newer scenarios, I assume, because a lot of the current scenarios um, are kind of favored against them. But when we get a more broad selection, I think there will be situations where this army can just win tournaments because all hero armies do quite good at some scenarios and not good at other scenarios. So I think it just manages to fit into the very low end of playable for me.
All right. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Uh, shall I do the Shire?
If you can manage all of the stuff that's in the Shire, man.
All right. So, um,
I mean, if the warriors in there get to be too much, I can cover some of them if you want.
yeah. So the Shire is currently constructed as a hero of legend, who I think is pretty much an auto take in this list. And that is Gandalf the Grey on his cart. And Gandalf the Grey's cart is equipped with one of these rocket-based self-protection systems that does all sorts of funky stuff, including a rocket that he can launch every turn that knocks a single model to the ground. So, and I think something like a 2-up.
Let's actually go over this stupid cart because I
Yeah,
don't
let's
think a
do
lot
that.
of people have read this, and it is very, very dumb. And would be very strong if this list was capable of doing anything ever.
All right, so Gandalf has not changed much since the last edition, except for gaining an additional attack. And then some monkeying around with the spells that he has available. Uh, but he does have the cart, or at least the cart option. The cart is 25 points, only 5 points more than a horse. The cart is move 8. It is fight 1, shoot value 6 plus, strength 3, defense 3, attack 0, 3 wounds, courage 8, intelligence 8. It is a mount, so it is not a chariot, unlike Radagast's bunny sleigh. But it has the special rule of Gandalf's rockets. At the start of every shoot phase, Gandalf may select one of the fireworks listed below, then choose one enemy model he has line of sight to within 6 inches of his cart and roll a d6. On a 2 plus, the chosen model suffers the effects of the selected firework. This can be done even if Gandalf is engaged in combat and may even target an enemy model who themselves is engaged in combat. No in the ways are required for this special rule. So on a 2 up, if you're within 6 inches of Gandalf, Gandalf's going to do this thing to you unless somehow Gandalf has been transfixed, because this is an active special rule. And the different effects are whooshing arrow. Target immediately suffers a strength 2 hit, probably not what you're going for. Goblin popper, the target is immediately knocked prone, has no effect on monster models. So, if you're Aragorn, King Alisher, and you take one of these to the face, you are getting knocked off of your precious horse and doing nothing that turn. Flaming wheel, the target suffers a -1 penalty to their dual rolls in the ensuing fight phase. Not entirely sure why you do this, except if you fired the Goblin Popper the last time. But let's see. Actually, does this? No, he can do the same thing every turn, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's his special rule in this army list.
Yeah, all
Uh,
right, which we'll get to.
yes.
And then we have the big one. The target immediately suffers a strength 8 hit, and if they survive, are knocked prone. This firework, and this, by the way, can be used on monsters and can be used only once per game. So if you want to knock Smaug over, unless, I don't know, Smaug may have a special rule saying he never gets knocked prone, but if you want to knock something big over, you hit him with the big one and over he goes. Yeah, so if Sauron takes the big one to the face, he's getting knocked over. All right, so we have Gandalf and Gandalf's cart. That's the hero of legend. Hero of fortitude. Bilbo Baggins, aging hobbit, who is the one who has very little combat stats, but you can get him the mithril coat and sting. And he is the one who has, if he takes the ring, ends up, the ring behaves like the old ring behaved. So he can be in combat with somebody else, and it will, with another buddy like Gandalf in his cart, and it will still have the fight value of the target. Actually, as I'm looking at this Bilbo Baggins aging hobbit. Oh, okay, never mind. I didn't see the ring listed there, but I see it's listed in the special rules. We also have Frodo Baggins, and who can carry the ring if Bilbo doesn't have it. We have Samwise Gamgee, Hamfast Gaffer Gamgee, who's, I believe, the guy with the flowers. Farmer Maggot, who is the guy with the burly two-handed weapon and 3 dogs. We have Merry, we have Pippin, we have Rosie Cotton, who is the aforesaid mentioned barmaid who counts as a 6-inch banner, and actually counts as a banner for purposes of victory point purposes. Purpose of victory point purposes is a little redundant, but she counts as a banner. And she's only 20 points, by the way, so she costs less than a banner, even though she is a 6-inch 2-fate banner. And then we have Lobelia Sackville Baggins at 20 points, who has a Furious Tirade special rule where she can just pick somebody. I think it's maybe within line of sight and a certain amount of inches. Let me actually figure this out. Lobelia Sackville, stern scolding,
6 inches line
6
of
inches
sight.
in line of sight, and on a 2+, that model can't activate. And if it does get charged, it only has 1 attack. So I don't think you can use it. You can't use this against monsters. You can't use it against chariots, but you can use it against, say, the Necromancer of Dol Guldur, where she gives the Necromancer of Dol Guldur a stern scolding, and he can't activate, and there's nothing he can do about it, which is interesting. Then we get to the special rules. So in this list, if he's in the army, Bilbo has the 1 ring instead of Frodo. This will be a night to remember. Friendly models reroll failed courage tests. Additionally, friendly models can't have their courage test reduced by special rules or magical powers. So no drain courage, no harbinger of evil on any of these folks. The Grey Wizard friendly models may benefit from Gandalf's Stand Fast. Additionally, Gandalf may use two fireworks each shoot phase rather than one. They must be different fireworks and must target different models. So he can uh, give one person a -1 on the dual roll and knock another person to the ground. Or if he fires off the big one, knock a person to the ground with a strength 8 and just knock somebody else to the ground. So between Gandalf and Lobelia, you're shutting down basically between 2 and 3 heroes a turn. And last, you have on a long expected party, friendly models pass fate on a 3+ rather than a 4+, and they can reroll failed fate die rolls. So fate becomes almost an automatic uh, wound sink. Uh, so I think on this army, right now, this army, despite all these bells and whistles, is still on. It's still unplayable because you have no way to deal with just guys, right? Um, you you can buy all these folks for 500 points, run into your average 500-point army that has 25 guys and a couple heroes. You shut down all their heroes, and then their guys come in and kill you. Um, and that's the problem with this army. Once the new book comes out and you can actually buy Hobbit Warriors, I'm assuming you can buy Hobbit Warriors. They haven't been moved to Legacy. This is going to be a really scary army. I think once you actually put hobbits in this army becomes at least competitive. Um, Remains to be seen whether it's dominant with all these bells and whistles on it or not.
And the I can already predict that this army is also not going to be fun to play against because none of the opponent's heroes are going to get to play the game. Because Gandalf shuts down one a turn guaranteed. Well, not guaranteed.
Not quite guaranteed.
There's a 16% chance that he fails the knocked prone thing. Um, but pretty close to guaranteed by knocking them prone every turn. He makes another one super, super weak by giving them -1 to their dual rolls. Um, Lobelia can also shut down one of them and make them unable to move. She can do that 4 times a game, potentially more if Gandalf strengthens her will.
Yeah, that's right.
And
I
then
should
and then
mention she has to spend her will to do this. She doesn't
yeah.
just get it.
And then Gandalf also has his own spells like Sorcerer's Blast and Transfix, which you can also use to shut down models. Um, the the cart is just so silly. Um, because they have this clause about about it not being able to knock down monsters, but there is one that can knock down monsters, and with stuff like Fell Beasts, you only need to knock them down once, and they're just dead. Um, so, a Fell Beast flaps around, charges in, Gandalf moves within 6 inches, throws the Strength 8 thing at them, knocks them off their Fell Beast runs away. There goes your hitting power on your Wraith. Um, any cavalry hero that charges in, um, on the first turn, Gandalf can do his big firework and his small firework, and then knock over 2 cavalry heroes trying to charge and get heroic combat to something off on you turn 1. Um, your heroes just aren't really gonna get to play. Um, so I don't know how this army's gonna do once it gets warriors, but it's probably gonna be pretty infuriating to play against.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of these armies where you have to go into it with kind of the right mindset that, um, all right, we're going to be playing SPG in the middle of an episode of Benny Hill, and recognize that all your heroes are just going to have weird things happen to you, and um, the rest of your guys are going to have to win the game for it. Um, do you guys I don't know. I may be dating myself. Do either of you guys remember the Harlem Globetrotters back when they
Yeah,
were a thing?
yeah, yeah.
All right. Um, uh, so the Harlem Globetrotters always played a team that I think was like the Washington Senators or something like that, who were like the foils for the Harlem Globetrotters, that the ones that would have the basketballs like bounced off the top of their head and like have the ball dribbled around them repeatedly so many times till they got dizzy and fell over. And I suspect that's kind of how playing a game against the Shire is going to be, that you have to realize that you're playing the Washington Senators and just kind of go in and try and win the game anyway. But um, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this, Alisher?
I really don't, just because the list is incomplete. And well, actually, I'm surprised how many times I ended up playing Hobbit's last edition, but I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see how they look and feel on the table. I mean, they seem like they're skewing towards competitive just because, the game does seem to reward bodies, and now this list has a pretty consistent way of stopping heroes, or at least slowing them down, not really stopping them. But
Yeah. Well, I've got a really
Honestly,
nice.
it's
Yeah.
got decent hero assassination tools too, because it's got Bilbo with the ring, and he can double up with other models, because of his special rule. It's
Yep.
got the -1 to dual rolls from Gandalf's fireworks, and it's got Lobelia who can decrease attacks to 1. So if you want to kill something that isn't a monster, you can do it. Um,
Well, so the downside about this is there's nothing in the list other than Gandalf, who on his card is, I mean, it's a 60 mil base, so it's actually kind of hard to get in. There's Other than Gandalf, there's nothing in this list unless they add something in with the third book that actually has a lot of killing power.
Armor
So
Maggot the Beast.
yeah, I mean, right, but he's got what? He's got two attacks at +1 to wound. I think but he's still only like strength 2, isn't he? Or does he have strength
Might
3?
actually be strength 3.
Yeah. But even so, that's not, you know, it's not like you're teaming,
Mm.
old Bilbo up with, you
I
know,
think I think that will depend on um because I know in the old edition there was um is he in this book? The
who.
guy that gives the sheriffs free two-handeds.
He's not in this book.
Okay, so if he comes back, um then then that'll buff up your sheriffs, which is nice. It'll take a couple of turns, but I think there is potential to kill something if you really want to throw stuff at it. And plus, Gandalf, even if his base is huge, getting the charge in with him, you've got 3 attacks on the charge, knocking prone, strength 5, two-handed. It's gonna do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Like against defense 7 heroes, that's like 3 wounds.
Yeah. If you can get Gandalf into somebody, Gandalf can kill it. It's just the tricky bit is getting Gandalf into somebody because he's on the big base. Um, yeah. So, I mean, and I assume this list is going to come up with all of its inherent weaknesses of running pure hobbits the last time, which is, you don't have spears, you have a battle line, but you've got a fight 1, defense 3 battle line that crumbles once you get into contact. So it may be that there are going to be enough minuses with this list that it's going to keep this thing in check. I'm hoping that it will, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Shall
So,
we go to Road to Rivendell?
which is yours?
It is. Well, I'm never actually going to play this army, but it is the one I'm going to review. So there's Aragorn with bow, Frodo, he can take Mithril Coat and Sting. Oh, and Aragorn can take the bow. He doesn't have to take the bow. Sam, Arwen on Asphaloth with Hedefang. Minor heroes, there's Barlam and Butterbur. And then for the independents, it's Merry, Pippin, Build the Pony again, and the Gatekeeper of Bree, which is what's his name from last edition.
I can't remember what his name was. It was never.
He's the guy that makes people not able to move if they're infantry
Yeah,
models.
but I don't think that was actually his formal name, although it could have been, and I never realized it. But uh, yeah, I can't remember. Oh, Harry Goatleaf, that was his name.
Yeah. Um, right. So for additional rules, um, you need to take Frodo. And when writing the list, you can put all of your models into a single warband or have them in separate warbands. And you're pretty much going to want all of your models into a single warband because otherwise they're just going to get eaten on their own and stuff like Old Ground. For special rules, we do not stop till nightfall. Aragorn may declare heroic march for free every turn. Um, if models begin their activation within 6 inches of Aragorn, they get Woodland Creature until the end of the turn, um, which is a very clunky special rule. If I were designing this game, I would have just given them Woodland Creature. But anyways, then there's I'm the faster rider, I'll take him, which is I'm fairly sure the one of the big rules of this list, which is if your army includes Frodo and Arwen, which it should always, because Arwen is the highlight of this list. Um, Frodo may begin the game as a passenger upon Asphaloth. While Frodo is mounted on Asphaloth, Arwen gains the resistant to magic special rule, increases her attack characteristic to 3, and can spend Frodo's might, will, and fate points as if they were her own. And Frodo obviously can't put the ring on while he's a passenger. So this effectively makes Arwen, who's already pretty good, into a fight six, three attack. Frodo's got two might, right? So it would be four
Yeah.
might, um, uh, seven will,
All right. Well,
and
let's do the
five fate.
math. All right. So let's find Frodo here to start out with. Frodo is two might, three will, three fate, and Arwen.
I believe is 242.
Let's see here. Elven Kingdoms. Uh, Arwen is 242. Yeah. So put them together, you get four might, seven will, five fate, and then Asphaloth brings another will and another fate
So
to the party.
note that Asphaloth cannot you cannot use Asphaloth's will to cast
Cast
spells.
spells, but you can
Um,
resist or take courage
yes,
tests or do whatever
you
you want.
can.
And the fate matters because you've got, I think, a total of six fate in this model.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. So unless you knock her prone, you're not killing that horse. Um, all right. So the next special rule is another Arwen Frodo thing, which is if you want him, come and claim him. While she's within 6 inches of Frodo, or if he's a passenger on Esfloth, Arwen gains the Fearless special rule, and this is the important one, may reroll any dice when making a casting roll. Um, Combine the fact that she can reroll every die when she casts, and that she has effectively 7 will points when Frodo's on Asphaloth. It basically means you're going to be casting Wrath of Bruin in basically every turn, um, which is very strong. And then the last rule is the cover of night. At the start of the game, using this army list, you may choose the scenario to take place at night if you wish. Um, If you do so, at the start of each move phase, you may choose whether or not the Gatekeeper of Breeze, a light in the dark special rule, is in effect. Um, which is good because last edition it used to
Yeah.
be the Gatekeeper's light would shine out and everybody could shoot at you.
Yeah, as anybody who has ever been in any type of military will tell you, a light in the dark is not always a good thing. In particular when people are trying to shoot at you. Um, but yeah, is it worth? It's probably worth talking. It's probably worth talking briefly about Bartleman Butterbur and the Gatekeeper of Bree because these are models that like nobody ever used.
So shall we prove to people why you should still never use these?
Well, okay. I mean, let's put a pin on that. We'll come back and we'll have a discussion about that. But all right, so Bartleman Butterbur is 45 points, fight 3, save 4, uh, or I'm sorry, shoot value 4, strength 3, defense 4, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 6 plus, intelligence 7 plus, 2 might, 3 will, and 2 fate, which actually isn't that bad. Um, and his special rules. Oh, he also has heroic defense and heroic resolve. His special rules: if Barliman finishes his base contact with a friendly fellowship model, he may spend a point of will and roll a d6. On a 4 plus, the friendly model regains a wound earlier in the battle. So he's a combat medic for anybody in the with the fellowship special rule. And by the way, he's got a fellowship uh, special rule too. And then well fed and ready to fight. Friendly fellowship models within 6 inches of Barliman count as having the dominant 2 special rule. Because as we know in SBG, um, fat people get advantages. One of those advantages is increased dominance. Exhibit A being Bomber, and he will fatten you up to the point where you get dominant too. And then you have the Gatekeeper of Bree. The Gatekeeper of Bree is 40 points, move 6 inches, fight 3, shoot value 5 plus, strength 3, defense 3, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 7 plus, intelligence 8 plus. He was it's kind of a dumb bunny. 1 might, 3 will, 1 fate, and his special rules are Gatekeeper. The end of the priority phase, the Gatekeeper of Bree may spend a will point to use this special rule. If he does, the Gatekeeper may select a single infantry model within 6 inches in a line of sight and roll a d6. On a 3 plus, chosen model may not move during their activation but may otherwise act normally. Monster models are unaffected by this special rule. So he's a quasi transfix at 3 plus. It basically, think of it as an unresisted
Think of it
transfix.
as Lobelia's special rule, but worse in every single conceivable way.
Fair enough. Um, well, or one might say, not as broken in every conceivable way.
Hmm.
And then his second rule is a light in the dark. The area within 6 inches of the Gatekeeper is always considered to be daylight. Additionally, enemy models cannot charge friendly models if they could charge the instead. An enemy model cannot charge the Gatekeeper. They may charge other friendly models as normal. Um, so my thought on Barliman and Gatekeeper and the Gatekeeper is both of these models would be perfectly fine, interesting models to have in an army that actually had a battle line. If you could get like Warriors of Bree in this list would be fine. But if Barlaman and the Gatekeeper are your battle line, you've got a problem, and that's kind of the problem with the list.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with the list is you want 3 models, and then the rest of your models are just gonna die, right?
Yeah,
Because there's Aragorn and there's Arwen, and then you take Frodo and you put him on Arwen, and then you have officially run out of models that can do anything of use. Sam has 2 attacks, but he's like fight 3, so he's gonna die almost immediately. Um, and Varlaman and the Gatekeeper are both 1 attack and fight 3, so they're gonna die immediately. Merry and Pippin are Merry and Pippin. Um, Build a Pony is Build a Pony. It's it's it is hard to figure out a list that is not just bad for this, and it's only going to even semi work at very low points.
yeah. Ideally, you want to take this list to a 320 to 340 point tournament. Um, and yeah, I have tried hard to figure out how to make a list that's playable to any extent um, from this and can't. I mean, you have Super Arwen, and Super Arwen cuts a swath through the enemy's army, and then the rest of your poor hobbits and innkeepers and gatekeepers and ponies get slaughtered en masse.
Yeah. Unplayable?
Unplayable. Sorry.
Unplayable. I assume, Alisher, your opinion is the same.
Yeah, I mean, this list doesn't really have a whole lot that's working for it.
I mean, it's got one thing that's working. It's got two things that are working for it. It's just not enough.
If they put Super Arwen in any other list, then this would be crazy. But
Yep.
just everything else is utter garbage.
Yeah. Which is actually somewhat depressing because I actually have a painted Super Arwen, with Frodo on the back of Asphaleth, and I'd really like to put that on the table sometime, but sadly no. But
Well, we've got a good streak going so far of quality lists. Let's
all
move
right,
on to Breaking the Fellowship.
Alisher, see if you can save us with the breaking of the Fellowship.
All right, we'll see. All right, Hero of Legend. Yes, we have Aragorn with bow. Is the Aragorn Strider mounted in any list?
Yes.
The Rohan
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
ones.
right out.
yeah. Road to
Oh,
Edoras or
yeah,
whatever, or road to Helm's Deep.
yeah. Okay. All right, so you got
And
Aragorn,
right out.
narrator, Frodo, Samwise, Arwen. Yes, Arwen. No, sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
No.
I'm wrong. Sorry, guys. I'm like
You
destroying
were
the.
so fixated by Road to Rivendell that you
I
stayed on
started,
it.
well, like I'm looking on my iPad and my like Siri was like freaking out, so I was doing a lot of swiping. But in any case. All right, so like I said, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Boromir, who can take a shield, Haldir, who can take his bow, Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin, and then you can take Lothlorien warriors of the Wood Elves. You can take Banner, Elf bow, Elf throwing weapons, Wood Elf spear. All right, lots in terms of special rules and additional rules. You always have to take Aragorn, who's the general. All fellowship models must be included in Aragorn's warband. Lothlorien warbands can only be included in a warband led by Haldir. All right. Each fellowship model will gain the war gear listed next to their name below, which will have the effects detailed. Frodo, Lights of Eredil. Probably didn't say that right. At the start of each of his activations,
I think
Frodo
it's a Rendil.
Arendelle.
I
Frodo
think
may
it
roll.
doesn't matter.
Frodo.
Oh no! There are plenty of Tolkien scholars out there who would beg to differ with you on that. I'm sure it matters tremendously to a small percentage of our listeners. Sorry,
Somebody
Alisher, go
was
ahead.
Well, I
like
would
me saying
recommend
it
that they
wrong
find
probably
something else to do
irritated
with their
somebody.
time.
All right, Frodo may roll a d6 on a 3 plus. Frodo counts as having cast a blinding light magical power. Sam, Elven Rope. Sam always counts as rolling a 6 for any climb, leap, or jump test he is required to make. Merry and Pippin, daggers of the Noldorin. These are elven hand weapons. Whilst wielding these weapons, Merry and Pippin may reroll failed wound rolls when making strikes. Aragorn, Elven Dagger. This is an elven hand weapon that has the Uruk-hai Bane special rule. Legolas, blow of the Galadhiram. Whilst within 3 inches of a friendly Lothlorien model, Legolas may reroll failed to hit rolls while making shooting attacks. Gimli, Galadriel's Locks. Gimli may use this war gear to reroll a single d6 in a dual roll. Gimli may only use this war gear 3 times during the course of the game. Boromir, Golden Belt. Boromir gains a woodland creature special rule. If you thought we were done, we are not. You have my sword. So long as Frodo is alive and on the battlefield, friendly Fellowship models gain the Fearless special rule. Additionally, a breaking in the Fellowship army can never be considered broken whilst Frodo is alive, even if he escapes the battlefield in a scenario where this applies. Blessing of Galadriel. Friendly models count as being under the effect of Fortify Spirit, even if they have no will points remaining. Shielded from unfriendly eyes. Friendly hero models gain an Elven Cloak for free. Fortify Spirit is just 1 dice now, right? It's yeah, okay.
Yes. You basically gain resistance to magic. Um, yeah. What are your thoughts, Alisher?
I think that this is. better slightly than it was last edition, and it was solid. Like it was one of the better all hero lists last edition. Um, I think that makes sense. Um, yeah, I mean, certain things. Obviously, Legolas's bow. Well, I guess all of. Did they get the unique war gear last edition?
They did, although
Okay.
there's some slight differences. I think Legolas's bow you got to reroll to hits if you were because Lothlorien wasn't part
Ranges
of it.
of a fellowship model
I
or
think
something
so.
like that.
Yeah, or a hobbit or somebody. You used to have like one of the hobbits that just like followed him around so he could reroll his shots.
Gotcha.
Um,
I mean, the Legolas lit like pretty solid. The Legolas one is particularly good. I mean, you take a model that's already very good in this edition, and that you like reduce his probability of ever failing his shooting even further.
but although you need to buy Lothlorien models to do that.
Yeah,
Um,
what does have you guys made any lists with this? What does this math out to? So I mean, I'm assuming you could just take out.
I think you do max Haldir's Warband. Because if the elves die, it's not like your army's gonna break.
Oh, yeah, I guess
Because
Frodo.
because unless of course Frodo dies, which oh well. Um, but I think the elves definitely help the list out. Because obviously you take Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Boromir, and then Haldir and some guys and Frodo, and that's gonna be hold on, let's do some math. 300, 460, 550, and then 15 Lothlorien guys. It's going to be like 650-ish. 650, 700. You get a banner with the Lothlorien guys, which is good. Um, so I do think you take the elves. I don't think any of us has played this list in this edition yet, so we'll have to see how it performs.
I I did it once, and I played it against Isengard with the Unstoppable Grima, and it was not a fun experience.
Well, to be fair, you take any all-hero army without magic
Yeah,
against Unstoppable Grima, and you just get slaughtered because none of your heroes can do anything.
right. So I'm a bit jaded by that. Um,
I've seen it pop up at a couple like tournaments abroad.
Hmm.
um,
Did it do anything in those tournaments?
Well, that I don't know. I mean, it's not particularly good against our current Eagle meta, presumably.
I do think it's kind of amusing that Legolas's Bow of the Galadrim requires a Lothlorien model next to him to work. And I wonder if there were any type of like warranty disclaimers when Galadriel handed this to him. It's like,
I'm just
here's
imagining,
here is a bow with special properties that will cease to work in 5 minutes when you get on that boat and head down the river, and will never work again.
just imagining them like kidnapping like one like 15-year-old Galadrim guy just to use as a battery for his bow.
Yeah, that's right.
He just wakes up tied up on a ship, and Legolas is just like, "Yeah, my bow gets better when I'm near you, so we're
it
taking you with
it's the
me."
one elf nobody liked. It's like I grant you this bow of Galadriel of the Galadrim, and to make it work, we are going to grant we're going to grant you Schmedlath the elf as your slave to take with you down the river, and take good
And then
care of Schmedlath the elf. Not because anybody cares whether he lives or dies, but your bow will cease being useful if he
they go
dies.
to fight the Uruk-hai, and he gets chopped down immediately, and Legolas is like, oh
Well,
well,"
get rid of this bow.
just chucks it and uses his old one.
That's right. Uh, all right. Where did we come out? Playable? I'm
Yeah,
assuming
I think
playable.
this is more firmly in playable than the Fellowship because I think it's just better than the Fellowship,
Although the
honestly.
fellowship has at least has the ability to take Gandalf to kill Grima.
That
The
is true.
the one reason you want Gandalf in the fellowship list is to kill Grima, because otherwise you're screwed.
You,
um, all right. Cool. Let's see. What are we doing here?
An actual list, ladies and gentlemen, that is not all hero.
Kingdom of Rohan. All right. So Kingdom of Rohan is, I think you're kind of like, this is the first of many Rohan lists. This is kind of the basic Rohan list. And it has a hero of legend, um, Theoden, King of Rohan. You can get him with Snowmane with armor. You can get him with Snowmane without armor. You can exchange his armor for heavy armor, or you can buy him a shield. So any type of Theoden that you want. Um, Hero of Valor is Theodred, Prince of Rohan. You can get him with Brago, who's the horse that sometimes you can stay on, and give him a shield too. I think this is the only list in which Theodred appears, or am I wrong? Does he have his own list in
I
this?
don't think Theodred's guard exists. Um,
Yeah, I don't think so either. Maybe that's coming in a different book.
yeah.
Uh, Aemir, Marshal of the Riddermark. Um, and you can get him with Firefoot with armor. You can get him with just Firefoot. You can get him with shield. You can get him with throwing spears. Heroes of Fortitude. Hama, Captain of Rohan, who, even though he rides a horse in the movies, does not have a horse here because he gets off of it before he gets unceremoniously chomped by a warg. Um, all right, time for a tangent. Has anybody noticed that the wargs in the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies are a lot scarier than they are in the game?
True.
Correct.
That is a
I mean, wargs actually like kill people in uh, the movies, like kill real heroes, like poor Hama who gets his face bitten off by one.
One warg.
Yeah,
That would be quite a fluke in this edition.
yep. And
These
I mean, one of
dwarves
them,
definitely were terrified of them.
yeah. I mean, it takes like I mean, it takes like Dwalin and like three of his friends to kill one of these guys in an unexpected journey. But all right, but I digress. Perhaps wargs in a different edition will need a bit of a glow up, but we'll see. All right, we also have Gambling, Captain of Rohan. He can get the Royal Standard of Rohan and a horse. We have ordinary captains of Rohan, and they can come with all the bells and whistles, horses, heavy armor, or shields. Minor heroes, we can get Eowyn, Shield Maiden of Rohan. She can get horse, armor, shield, and throwing spears, or none of that, and just be Eowyn in the flowing dress of the figure that I have sitting in my bin. And then we have Warriors of Rohan. You can get the strangely kitted up Warhorn with Warhorn, shield, and throwing spear. Um, a banner for 25 points, shield and throwing spears for 3 points, because these throwing spears can be used as real spears too. All warriors of Rohan can now use their throwing spears as spears, as long as they're not on a horse. Um, Bows or shields. You have Riders of Rohan, which can bring a banner or throwing spears, and you have Rohan Royal Guard, who can get horse and throwing spears, horse or throwing spears. Um, and then for additional rules, the Riders of Rohan don't count toward the army's bow limit. So if you wanted to go all mounted with this, you obviously can. Ride and the special rules: ride for ruin in the world's ending. Friendly Rohan cavalry models gain a bonus of +1 to their strength on a turn in which they charge. And Home of the Horse Lords. When rolling for their Horse Lord special rule, friendly models will pass the roll on a natural 5+ rather than a 6+. So Horse Lord in this edition not only allows you to use your fate on your horse, but you basically get a 6+ fate save with your horse. And in this list, it is a 5+ fate save with the horse. So this is basically, I think, the everything in the kitchen sink Rohan list with not a lot of special rules. I played against this list once. It seems to be a serviceable list. I think there are other Rohan lists that come with more bells and whistles that most people will take in most circumstances because they make stuff interesting. But if you just want kind of your own unique combination of models and maybe you want Theodred, I guess this is the model. This is the list to take.
Yeah. I mean, um, sort of somewhat counterintuitively, I don't think you ever want to take a Kingdom of Rohan list with Theoden in it, or at least he is nowhere near your first choice, because both Aemir and Theodred, with their fight six and three attacks, just stand out so much in the list. So I'm fairly sure if I were to take a Kingdom of Rohan list, Aemir would be my first choice, and then Theodred my second. And it also comes with the benefit of being able to take gambling with the banner. And just as a reminder for people in this edition, the banner doesn't refresh might points unless you roll a six, but it is 6 inches, which is very good.
Yeah.
Um,
And it got cheaper too. I think it's 40
yeah,
points rather than 50 points.
instead of 50. So I mean, if I were to make a Kingdom of Rohan list, I think the other legions have all cavalry pretty much handled, so I'd probably do something like Aemir, Theodred, Gamling, and then some riders, and then a decent number of foot guys, maybe with some Rohan Royal Guard and Warriors of Rohan, and just make a shield wall list with two very strong heroes and a big banner. And I think that could do decently well.
Yep.
Um, it's not it's not competitive, but I think I'd put it pretty high in playable. Just because it's gonna be a no nonsense list. Well, when you build it right, which is the big thing with these larger lists. When you take Aemir and Theodred, I think it can do decently well.
Um, yeah, because I was just looking. There are no longer I think like bubble bonuses that matter for Theoden. It's just Rohan general. So if you take this list, you get the +1 fight value on the charge with mounted stuff, even if Aemir or Theodred is your general.
Yeah.
Um,
The thing that hurts this list, I think, is Royal Guard being 11 points instead
so,
of 10.
so there's a bigger thing that hurts this list. Uh, the reason I think that no Rohan list will ever be competitive, in my opinion, is this list is there. There's so many lists that are out there that hate this list that it's a real problem. It's not just Kingdom of Rohan; it's anything Rohan, and I mean you have you do have a problem with Grima like shutting down Theoden. At least in this list, you can avoid that by not taking Theoden. Um, but when you start running into one of the Hill Tribes lists, I took the time I played against this list. I was playing Usurpers of Edoras, and this list just melts um, when it runs into Usurpers because it's outnumbered and everything fighting against it is either like +1 or +2 to wound, um, and uh, it just dies horribly when it hits any of those Hill Tribe lists, and it's actually kind of sad because I don't know. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here, but I have a problem with the hatred rule as it is structured. The
Mhm.
hatred rule is overpowered, and too many things have it. And I mean, I guess one response could be that, well, it only matters in certain situations. Yeah, but when the situations arise and you're on the wrong side of hatred, it's just not a fun game because you're you're playing the whole game uphill the whole time, and it's not even a great experience for the guy who hates you either because you have this constant feeling of guilt every time you slaughter another figure because you're like, oh, I rolled a 4, but that actually kills you. Sorry, but um,
Are you the
I don't
guy,
know.
Evan? Are you the guy Matt's referring to?
When we've played practice games, I think we have both had this instance happen. I think I was playing Minas Morgul, and Dad was playing the Gandalf list that gets Hatred Mordor, and my orcs just got completely slaughtered. Um, and I remember, uh, I think. I lost. There was one tournament, the old Shadow in the East, when you would play on different boards and play with different armies. I lost two of my six
Oh
games, and those two games were, I think, against you and Devin,
yeah.
um, on Rohan because Rohan was fighting Dunland, which had Hatred Rohan, and all of my guys just got completely slaughtered both times. Um, but yeah, I agree. I think Hatred is is a mechanic that exists solely to unbalance the game. Like there is nothing else it accomplishes other than making some matchups super skewed and being completely useless in other matchups. It feels like a silly rule to me. Um, and I think most armies that have it should be buffed in other ways and then make it ancient enemies, which is reroll ones, which is much more fair. It still gives you a bonus um against people, but it doesn't give you +1, which is
Plus 1 to wound.
ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I was thinking is instead of making it a wound, just treat everyone who is in combat with an opponent that they hate as being in range of a banner. So
You could do the Moran and Orcs special rule, which is +1 fight value, but I guess that's pretty strong as well, isn't
yeah, I
it?
mean the in range of the banner thing I think kind of works for me because it actually kind of replicates the fact that they're fighting harder. It's not like I suddenly get stronger because I hate these guys, but I'm fighting harder and I'm more determined and
Yeah,
whatever.
every guy who hates someone else suddenly becomes a hyper analyst that can just like immediately like evaluate somebody's armor and go like, oh, that looks like a weak spot. I can hit there, and
Yeah,
then gets +1 to wounds.
either that or like they turn green, their muscles get larger and they rip out of their clothes and then beat their opponents
Either
to
that or
death.
the
So
sheer force of their hatred just like turns shields and armor into like butter or something, and they
yeah,
can just chop right through it.
I mean, I just remember when I so the time I played Usurpers of Edoras against this, and I actually like started off the game going, all right, so I need to do this, need to do that, and lure him in here, and then I was like, no, I don't, fucking charge, and uh, I realized about on like turn two that this required no tactics. I had a higher fight value everywhere, and I had +1 or +2 to wound. I just needed to like go into combat and kill him. And say again. Nope, I know
I think
I think
that's
there was just some
some blip.
background noise.
All right. Well, anyway, enough of my diatribe. Who's up next?
Oh, are we gonna rank this one?
Oh,
nah, no need. Just
well, no, playable. I mean, this is
Yeah,
playable.
I think this is actually I think I already said my take, but I think
Yeah,
this is decently high and playable. I think it can do well.
I think this is like the lower end of competitive, playable to low end competitive.
yeah. Like I said, I will never vote for any Rohan army as competitive because as soon as it runs into the hill tribes, its day is over.
I
And by the way,
I
there's
disagree with that, but we can discuss that more when we get to further Rohan lists that I think are competitive.
yeah. All right. Um,
Road to
okay.
Helm's Deep.
Who's up?
Me?
Yeah,
Question mark?
with
Because
the fellowship
yeah,
matches the
we're very organized, guys. Um, right. So Road to Helm's Deep. Um, for Heroes of Legend, you get the ever useful Theoden. I say sarcastically because Theoden is not very good. Um, and then you get Aragorn with bow and Brago. He can take an elven cloak. Legolas on horse. He can take an elven cloak. Gimli. He can take an elven cloak. And then for fortitude, you have Hama, Gamling with a horse. Why? Why is Hama on foot? Why is he that we'll go into this later on, but even Gimli can be a passenger on Legolas's horse, and Hama's just on foot.
I mean, we know at least the exact moment in the movies when this is trying to capture that this is trying to capture, which is when Hama's like out front and for some reason gets off of his. Well, no, wait a minute. The ward kills his horse, doesn't he?
Yeah, he is not. The only reason Hama cannot take a horse is because the model doesn't exist.
Well, okay, stop. But setting all that reality aside, the exact moment this army captures is like the second after Hama's horse has been killed by a warg, but before he gets killed by a warg, right?
Yeah. But also, like, Legolas and Gimli wouldn't be on the same horse then, because Gimli was on his own horse, I'm fairly sure.
Yeah, he was. Who
Let's
knows?
not
All
think
right.
about this too hard. Moving on. After gambling, there's a captain of Rohan with a horse, and then for warriors, you can get a mounted rider of Rohan and a mounted royal guard with their accompanying stuff. So riders can take a banner, and both can take throwing spears. Additional rules. Every Rohan player's least favorite special rule, which is a road to Helm's Deep army must always contain Theoden, who is always the army's general.
All right, wait a
Um,
second. Stop. Why are you dissing on Theoden?
in this particular list, it's actually not bad, um, because he gives the 12-inch special rule, the +1 fight. The reason I'm dissing on Theoden is because Theoden is an overcosted model. Um,
He's an overcosted model at 95 points.
yes, he is. He is
Why?
not very good. He's two attacks. He's fight five. He does win ties, but that's not super relevant because he can't get to fight 10. So it's basically just fight 5.5. Um, and well, getting shut down by Grima is sort of, it's not going to
I
be
mean,
super
yeah,
relevant, but
set aside getting shut down by Grima because I understand that's a
we
problem.
can run through the analysis on points on why Theoden is worse than pretty much most other heroes at his points value,
I
who
I don't
serve the same purpose.
I don't think that's true. I mean, with three might, three will, one fate, and he has both strength, or he has both strike and march. I find him to be a very useful figure. If for no other reason than he's got march, and nobody remembers he's got march until it's too late.
It
Um,
is fair.
but
The march is nice. I just I just don't understand why he was costed the way he is, because Aemir and Theodred, which obviously aren't in this list, so you can't exactly compare them in this specific list, are just so much better value than he is. And Theodred is, I'm fairly sure, 10 points more expensive, and he gets an extra attack, an extra fight value. He rerolls to wounds. He does all of this stuff, and Theoden just
yeah, but
doesn't really get much.
he shows up in one list. And I don't
It is
know.
true. I don't necessarily think that's a great excuse for an underpowered profile, but
All right. I don't know. I think Theoden. I don't know. My vote is Theoden is appropriately costed, especially when he's D7. Um, but all right, we'll differ on that. Go on.
anyways, Riders of Rohan don't count towards your army's bow limit. And then they've got the same Ride to Ruin list as the previous one, so +1 strength on the charge for Rohan Cav. Legolas and Gimli. If your army includes Legolas and Gimli, Gimli starts the game as a passenger on Legolas's horse and uses the rule for passengers. While Gimli's mounted on the horse, Legolas gets 3 attacks and can use Gimli's Might, Will, and Fate. He cannot use Gimli's Might to improve to hit, to wound, or in the way tests. Uh, if Gimli dismounts from the horse during Legolas's move, um, then, after Legolas's activation, Gimli may activate, even though he normally wouldn't be able to. And then back on your horses. At the end of a friendly infantry hero model's move, If they're in base contact with a friendly cavalry warrior model, then the warrior may give the hero their horse. Um, you dismount the warrior model and then remount the hero model, basically. Um, and obviously, you don't resurrect your named horse if that happens. So that's the list. Um, this is actually one that both Dad and I have decent experience with. Dad slightly more so. Um, the big highlights in the list are that Legolas Gimli jockey thing where you get like 50 billion might points. And also dismounting Gimli is actually very strong because he can immediately activate. So you can basically torpedo Gimli forward, where you move Legolas 10 and then dismount Gimli, and then Gimli can activate and move another 5, so that can catch people off. Um, and of course, Aragorn, especially mounted, will always be good. Um, Fight 7, resistant to magic, and the free heroics every turn are quite strong.
And the ability to two hand.
Yes. Two, the ability to go two-handed was definitely a big
Yep.
buff for him.
Um, yeah. Uh, that one thing to keep in mind is that you cannot dismount Gimli in a heroic combat situation. So if you go into combat mounted with Legolas and Gimli, you can't use the Gimli torpedo later as part of the heroic combat. He's stuck on the horse till the heroic combat is done. And by the way, as I read the rules, you can no longer dismount a hero in any circumstance on a heroic combat. There are two things that you are allowed to do in a heroic combat. You can move, and you can capital M move, and you can capital C charge. And capital D dismount is a different section in the rules. So anyway, just
Hold on.
another side note.
Just as a going back to the whole Theoden thing, remember Theoden in this list is not defense 7, he's defense 5.
I know. I'm just talking in general. You're right. In this particular list, he is defense five.
You really, really do not like
He's
David. You're
he's
like going
bad.
back.
Like he's legitimately looking at his profile for him on foot. He's 75 points, and there are like 60, 50 point heroes that I would take over him. Like it's
Like who?
a little depressing. Um,
Who in this list would you take over him?
Not in this list. I'm just saying in general. I'm not saying he's bad in, well, he has to be taken in this list. Um, but he's just not, he's very underwhelming to me. Like there's nothing really that stands out about him.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare him to Theodred, who I think is undercosted, um, you kind of have a point. But if you compare him to Aemir, who's to get the same types of bells and whistles is going to be 140 points. Um, I think Theodred is. I'm sorry, Theoden is probably about right. Um,
I think I disagree with that because I'm fairly sure if you do the math, AMR is also undercosted. Um, but
yeah, I mean I guess that's fair. I mean, my problem is
I
not
think
with.
I think my issue is that there are a ton of Rohan heroes that are undercosted. Because I'm fairly sure um, Theodred, Aemir, Helm, and Haleth all are costed similarly. Not like similar in points, but similar in how they scale them. Like they do 5 points for like fight value and might and stuff like that. Um, and Theoden is just behind on that scale, which in the face of so many good options, even though you're correct, a lot of the time they're not in the same list. It leaves me feeling underwhelmed and confuses me as to why the king and the big hero, who is the focus of the movies, does not share the same points value assignment.
Because he's 60 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's ageism, pure and simple.
Way to go, Evan. You're being ageist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always hated old people, so I guess that tracks.
All right. Um, right then.
Let's actually talk about the list, shall we? Um, I think I think back on your horses is a cool special rule.
Yeah.
And the Legolas and Gimli jockey is pretty good as well. Um, I know Dad doesn't like putting this list in competitive, but I think the fact that you get so much shooting, um, and those powerful heroes, I think this is a probably quite low on the competitive scale, but I think it's competitive. I think just especially in this meta where you deploy at the back of the board for every single scenario, having so many shots in an all cavalry army when you can just choose not to engage or choose to engage when you want to is powerful. Especially when Aragorn can march every turn and you can just run away. Um, and there's not a lot opponents can do against you.
Yeah, so this is probably if any of the Rohan lists are going to get into competitive, it's probably this one. Although that's at a certain points level, and the points level is where you have enough points to get Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and a decent amount of guys. Because even if you run with this list, if you run into like usurpers of Edoras or something like that, then you send um, you send Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli into the army to carve holes in it because nothing they have can stop them, and then keep the rest of the army back, just falling back 5 inches shooting, falling back 5 inches shooting.
Yeah.
Um, so at least you have kind of an answer to the list. So if any of the Rohan lists make it competitive, I think it's this one probably.
I would actually argue that one that we will cover later on also is competitive. But we can talk about that when we get there.
All right, break the
Um,
tie, Alisher. Where does this one go?
I've played against it. I think it's I don't the lowest end of competitive because like I think it could win. I think it could win a 5 game. I don't think it could win a massive GT, but I think it could win a 30-person 5 game GT.
Yep.
uh, shall we move on to a very, very sad list?
Well, we know where Evan's going to be on this one. Go ahead,
Uh,
Alisher. You're up with the
it
sad
was so
list.
cool in the last edition, and
The
they ruined it.
Masters of Helm's Deep. I'm not actually certain how they ruined it, but we're gonna find out. Um, Theoden, Evan's favorite hero in the game. Aragorn, Legolas, who can take armor and elven cloak. Gimli, who can also take an elven cloak. Haldir with heavy armor and elf bow, who can also take an elven cloak. Gamling, who can take the banner. Captain of Rohan, who can take a shield and armor. Gladhiram Captain, elf bow, independent heroes. Aldor and Haleth. Rohan warriors with their array of weapons, Rohan Royal Guard with throwing spear, or Galadrim warriors with a general array of weapons, Warhorn and Elfbow, Banner, Elfbow, Shield and Elf Spear, Elven Spear, and Shield. Additional rules: a Defenders of Helm's Deep list must include Theoden, King of Rohan, who is always the army's general. Only a maximum of 33% of the models in this army can have the Lothlorien keyword. Oh, are you saying because you can't have bow and spear, that ruins the list?
Especially when you can only take 33% of your army with throwing spears.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, Haldir treats both Aragorn and Theoden as a banner with a range of 6 inches. Additionally, rules within 6 inches of either Aragorn or Theoden, Haldir automatically passes all courage tests, and may reroll failed to wound rolls when making strikes. If this army is broken, friendly warrior models gain a +1 to any courage test they are required to take. Additionally, if this army is broken, friendly warrior models within 6 inches of Theoden may reroll failed courage tests. Give them a volley. Friendly models increase the range of their shooting attacks by 6 inches, provided they have not moved that turn. This special rule does not apply to throwing weapons.
So I guess I will expand on why I am upset at this list. And I will first say this is not a bad list. It is not bad. It is just really annoying because of the throwing spear restrictions and because of the restrictions on the number of elves you can take and the number of bows you can take. Um, Basically, the way you people want you to, or the way this list worked in the movie is the elves had bows, and then you had the Rohan guys who were throwing stuff. And last edition, what you would do is you'd take a bunch of Rohan guys with throwing spears and shields, and then you'd take elves with bows and spears, and you'd put the elves behind the Rohan guys, and you'd have a ton of shooting, and you'd also have a really good shield wall with fight five behind from the elves and decent warriors of Rohan. Now, in this edition, you cannot take elves with bows and spears, um, and only 33% of your army can take throwing spears. Um, so there's two ways you would really build this army. One of them is the elves have bows, and then you take the remainder of your army is half throwing spears and half shields. And then that basically means that all of your terrible fight three warriors don't get supported by your fight five elves. And your elves just sort of stand there and shoot. Alternatively, you can put your throwing spear and shield guys behind your elves, and then you just have a bunch of not great shieldmen sitting around doing not much. Um, and then there's the unintuitive way to do it, which I think might actually be better, which is you give your elves either shields or shields and spears, and then you put your throwing spear guys behind your elves with shields, and then your bowmen are all Rohan guys. Um, and I think both of these lists can function. It's just really clunky to use and removes the whole feel of this, heavy shooting army that can skirmish all over the place, and can also fight in a shield wall. Um, it's just it's just not the restrictions that have been added in this edition have really hurt this list, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. The reason all of what you said is true. The reason I don't think it bothers me as much as it bothers you is because the way everybody built this list in the old edition was nothing like the movie. I mean, in the movie, as you pointed out, you had a bunch of elves with bows. They didn't have spears, and they weren't supporting Rohan guys. They were like off on their own on the deeping wall and shooting at people.
I would be totally fine if the elves couldn't take spears. If you could take all of the Rohan guys with throwing weapons, which they all should have, because all of the Rohan guys were throwing rocks and stuff down on the Uruk-hai. If that was the case and they could all have throwing spears, then that would be fine. Because
Yeah.
then you can put the elves in front and then spear support and still have a bunch of shots and stuff to do. My issue is that not all of the Rohan guys can shoot, which was not true in the movies. They could all shoot in the movies, and not having the necessary spear supports and the shooting that you would once have is very.
So, so you'd be okay with this? That all of the Rohan figures that weren't armed with a shooting weapon got to throw stone special rule? Is that what I'm
Hon-
hearing you say?
Honestly, I think that would be a decent special rule. Like, because they're shoot four up. I mean, it is strength one, which is horrible. But like, I think that would be an interesting thing to to see. Anything that was interesting, I think I
Yeah.
would like
All
that
right.
that
Okay, I
helps
can
their
see that.
shooting.
I can see that. No, well, and now I have this image of um, uh, Aragorn with his, because he doesn't get a bow in this, reaching down, grabbing that stone, and using his free might to have it like hit somebody in the eye and take him out. All right. So I've neither played or played against this list. It strikes me as playable.
Same. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. I'd say smack dab in the middle of playable would be
Right.
my assessment. Whereas last edition it was low competitive.
Yeah. Which by the way, as we discussed the last time, is exactly where you want a list to be. Is smack dab in the middle of playable. So, I mean, we've been slapping this list around and end up coming out the position that this is the type of list that, well, for me at least, this is the type of list that we want to exist. Would that all lists look like this?
yeah.
Although, if we wanted to give all the Rohan guys without a missile weapon, a thrown stone thing, I don't think that would break the bank here.
I
I think
doubt
I'd be
it.
fine with that. Um, I think that brings us to me. Let's see. How are we doing on where are we on good lists? We still got a ways to
Um,
go.
I mean, yeah. We're gonna be splitting this into two. We haven't even finished
At
Rohan, which
least
to be
at
fair
least two
is
parts.
half of the good army lists.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh wow.
oh my
Jeez.
gosh, there is so much Rohan.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about ride out, and then we can decide how many more of these we want to do in our current iteration.
How
So
much Rohan can our listeners
how much?
take?
Yeah, that's right.
There's one guy out there who's like, this is my lucky day. All they're
How much
talking.
unbridled Rohan can there be? All right.
What can men do against such reckless hate?
What's reckless Rohan? Speaking of which, we have the reckless Rohan, which is ride out, which is a list. I just played this list actually. Um, so we have ride out. So in ride out, we have Theoden, King of Rohan, for 110 points, hero of legend, with heavy armor, shield, and snowmane with armor, who I think is actually a decent value for his points. We have Aragorn Strider for 185 points with armor and Brago. We have, and these are all heroes of valor. Legolas Greenleaf with 125 points with armor and horse. You can give him an Elven Cloak for an additional 5 points. You have Heroes of Fortitude. Gambling, Captain of Rohan, 75 points. You can give him the standard with 40 points. And you have a Captain of Rohan for 65 points with horse. You can exchange armor for heavy armor for 5, give him a shield for 5. And you have Riders of Rohan for 14 points each. You can give him a banner for 25 or throwing spears for 2. Rohan Royal Guard on horse for 16 points and throwing spears for 2. Theoden always has to be the general here. Again, Riders of Rohan don't count towards the army's bow limit. And for special rules, now for Wrath, now for Ruin, and the Red Dawn. When a friendly cavalry moves, it must charge if able. Additionally, on a turn in which a friendly cavalry model charges, they gain a bonus of +1 to their strength and may re-roll any ones during that dual roll, which is a very useful rule. And then the horn of Helm Hammerhand shall sound in the deep one last time. Whilst those of you who can ride out, Gimli climbs to the Hornburg, gives a great blast to the fabled horn of Helm Hammerhand, a sound that reverberates around the valley once per game. At the start of any move phase, you declare you're using this special rule. Till the end of the turn, friendly cavalry models gain the Terror special rule. And then for Death and Glory, friendly models gain the Fearless special rule. So this army is kind of like the ultimate offensive punch cavalry army. And it moves. I don't know, this is a fun. If you want the cavalry army that's just going to charge for death and glory, this is the army you want. The charge that this army gets off is very powerful. I don't think to make this army only works, I think, at high points levels. I think I played this at like 800 points. And I had Theoden, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gambling in this list. And each one of them, I think each one of them had like 4 or 5 cav in it, with the exception of Theoden, who I think had like 4 Royal Guard and like 2 regular cav. And this army just like tore apart in Iron Hill's army. Um, if you think Aragorn on a horse is tough to deal with, imagine Aragorn at strength 5 on a horse, re-rolling ones in the dual roll. That is tough to deal with, and I think Aragorn just kind of like carved through like 10 dwarves in this game when I played him. But this army comes with a downside, and that's this: it must, everything's on a horse, everything must charge if it's going to move. I guess it can stay stationary if it wants to, and that can cause all sorts of problems. There's, for example, no exception for terrain for this rule. So if you are set up in a position where the only thing that you can charge is something that's sitting in the middle of the woods, then you are going plunging into those woods after that figure. And I think the way this reads, if you have to dismount to do that, you have to dismount to do that. And that's a problem and something that you have to think about. Using this list requires kind of some tact, but if you can kind of set up where you get the charge, this list is a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. You're gonna have to use a lot of marches with Aragorn and do so tactically as well. Um, just making sure that Aragorn moves first so everybody is in march range and therefore cannot charge, so they don't have to charge. Um, I think honestly the biggest problem with needing to charge is how horrible this army is going to be at objective scenarios, because it's very easy to just say, "Hey, rider on the back objective, you are now slightly within 10 inches of me. Please leave that objective." And then they charge you, they kill you, and then now they're in range of all of your other guys. So then they charge in again. And you just really can't get
Or
two
or
objectives.
they charge off of it. I actually played this in domination, and it did require a lot of thinking in order to do. I mean, one of the ways you can solve this problem is you can dismount. So you can send a guy onto the objective and dismount him because it's only the cavalry models that have to charge.
Hmm.
Um, uh, but another way you can do it is you kind of get the guy on the objective and just make sure he's kind of nowhere near any opponents that he can reach. But there's there's a couple different ways you can deal with this, but it requires some thought,
This,
and
th
that thought is kind of what makes this army kind
yeah,
of interesting to
this
play.
is going to be a very challenging army to play for most people. Um, and I'm not necessarily sure it's rewarding enough, um, in order to really justify that. I think this lands middle of playable for me.
Yeah, I would agree.
Um, just because
Yeah,
of the added challenge for not a ton of reward.
I think for me this gets up to high playable at the right points range when you can get Aragorn in here and Legolas and all kind of the bells and whistles that go with this army. I think at lower points levels this gets less and less playable because as you point out, I think this army really needs Aragorn in here to function and probably needs Legolas in there to function too. Uh, but it I mean, this was a truly fun army to play when I played this, and it was. I mean, this army feels like you know an army where you just want to throw. You just charge full speed ahead, and you realize some of these riders will die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make. Um, uh, but uh, but yeah, so I actually really like this list because I think this is another one of those lists that um, has a well thought out series of strengths and weaknesses that kind of offset each other. And Yeah, as you point out, this is not a list for novices to play by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're an experienced cavalry player, this is kind of a fun and rewarding list. And it's not an uber dominant list. It can feel that way when this cavalry is like charging you into the dust and Aragorn is cutting a smoking hole through the middle of your army. But if you are a canny, there are canny ways to exploit the weaknesses in this list that you can use to kind of even the playing field. All right, I think we got time for at least a couple more. Maybe we can get through the we can get through the old school Rohan list and maybe start up the next time on the new ones. But who
Mhm.
wants to take Riders of Aemir here? They're up next.
I got it.
All right.
Sure, I'm on the right page because a
It's
lot
the
of
one
it.
that says Riders of Aemir.
That generally helps, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, we've got Éomer, very surprising. You can also take Gandalf the White, Captain of Rohan, Riders of Rohan, all of them can be mounted. They have their various configurations. Additional rules, you have to take Éomer, he has to be the general. The warriors don't count at the bow limit. Once per game, at the start of any friendly activation phase, Gandalf may use this special rule so long as is alive and on the battlefield. If he does, and until the end of the turn, enemy models engaged in combat with a friendly cavalry model that made a charge that turn or supporting a combat against a friendly cavalry model that made a charge that turn suffer a -1 penalty to their duel. Ride for Ruin and the World's Ending. Friendly Rohan cavalry models gain a plus bonus of 1 to their strength on a turn which they charge. To the king, Éomer may declare a free heroic combat each turn. I read that wrong, but conveyed the
For
important.
free. That's the important part. You did not say the important
It's
part, which
free.
is it's free.
Anybody can call a heroic combat. Éomer. This is a cool list. I've played against this list. I know a few competitive players who play this. Now, granted, I think it's more of like a fun list that they play in addition to what is more competitive. But I don't know, I like playing against it. It had a cool feel to it. Um, I think the free hero combats is very good, especially given that Éomer is quite a solid hero this edition. Strength for Cavalry is nice. The Look to the Sun, I feel like, is super situational. I don't know what you guys think.
I mean it's what you use on your big charge, right?
Oh yeah,
When your big charge goes off, you use that.
Yeah, I think it could be quite nasty, especially if you throw in, AMR, Gandalf, Captain, call heroic combats with all of them and just clear out like 12 models. And then honestly at that point you don't even care what the remainder of your riders do. Any kills after
The
that are just a bonus.
rest of the riders are back there like eating popcorn.
Pretty much. Um, I I think this list is really good. Um, I think I what I like the most about it is the fact that it's got 2-up blinding light from Gandalf and it's got 100% bow limit, so it can outshoot most lists. Um, which if you're an all cav heavy shooting army that gets outshot, um, can be a huge problem, and this list doesn't have that problem because Gandalf gives blinding light. Um, the free heroic combats on AMR is really strong because AMR is already super strong. Um, and him being able to call free heroic combats every turn makes him a beast. Um, Gandalf is strong in this edition, not necessarily for his casting, but he has a decent number of useful spells. But having another fight six, three attack hero that's strength five can go two-handed means you have a very good base of power in your list. And when you combine that with the -1 to dual roll special rule, um, I think you can really destroy some armies, especially if they've had to walk 24 inches towards you as you've been shooting at them this entire time.
Does Amber doesn't have a hand and a half weapon, does he? But he gets +1 to wound on the charge or something like that.
He's got something.
Hang on.
I I don't think he gets +1 to wound on the charge, unless like Theoden dies or something like that.
Yeah, he reroll. Yeah, he rerolls to wound if Theoden or Eowyn die. Yeah, I'm looking at this. No, he doesn't. All right.
And then he's got a situational, if he rolls a 6 to wound, you can make an additional to wound roll. Um, which isn't bad. If you knock somebody prone, you're gonna roll one or two sixes, which will give you one or two additional wound rolls, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I was just thinking that one of the benefits of the look to the sun special rule is you can pretty comfortably go two handed on the turn that you call this because everybody you're facing is going to be one less, even if they roll a six.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think the only one who has that ability in this list is Gandalf.
which to be fair is gonna be very, very strong.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, Aemir can chew through even defense 7 because he will get strength 5 on the charge.
yeah.
Um, I mean, I I think this list could be competitive. Just because it is the best of the lists at outshooting other lists, which is very important in this meta, and it doesn't skimp in the damage department because of that special rule and because Aemir and Gandalf are so strong.
So this is actually oddly enough a pretty decent counter to Garrison of Dale.
That's part of the reason I've been
Yeah,
because you can I don't think you necessarily want to try out shooting it, but you use Gandalf to blinding light. You
and
get
then you
in,
call a march with a captain
yeah,
and you close in a turn.
you charge in, and then
Yeah,
they can't really do anything about your heroes, and you just chop them up.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's something the two of us need to test sometime. But it could run as a pretty good anti-meta list. Because it outshoots Arnor, though at the points levels you're taking this, you're probably not seeing much Arnor. Um, I think despite the fact that it's all Cav, it does decently against Eagles because
So
Gandalf can cast spells on Gwahir, and Éomer and Gandalf can do a lot of damage to the
the
Eagles.
the problem with that though is while Aemir and Gandalf are taking down Gwahir and probably one of their eagles, the other eagles are going to be nearby in hurl range and are going to be hurling into Gandalf and Aemir, and that is the best way to kind of take them out of the game.
Well, I think the strat is um you basically make a we're sort of getting off topic here, but you make a bubble of guys. You put Gandalf and Éomer in the middle, so no matter what, they can charge on the first turn. Um, and then you basically use all of Gandalf's spells on Gwahir just to try and limit him as much as you can. And when the Eagles come in, um, you charge Éomer and Gandalf into them. You use your Look to the Sun special rule, and then you call two heroic combats.
Combat so they can't
And
hurl
then
you.
you kill two eagles, basically off rip. And then either they get hurls into you or they don't, depending on who is priority. Um, in which case you might even get one or two more eagles, especially if you have priority.
Okay,
Um,
so the problem with calling the heroic combats is you don't have the fight value advantage.
which is fine because they have -1 to their dual rolls.
Yeah, I was gonna say so unless you screw that up.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not it is in no way an auto win and can very easily go bad, but I think it does have decent countermeasures against the Eagles.
yeah, I'm wondering. I'm just looking at the screech here. So the downside of this, I guess, would be if you lose priority and he screeches, and then comes in and gets both Aemir and Gandalf in that 6 inch bubble.
Yeah.
And then they're tied in place, and then your Eagles win some combats with normal guys and then throw into them, knock them off their
Yeah,
horses.
that
That's the
is the
tactic, I
issue,
think.
which is that the game will be decided on probably the first turn of combat, if not the second. um, because either your horses are all going to get run over by birds, or your heroes are going to slaughter half of the birds in one turn and then mop up the next turn.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you do have is you have 10 inches of move versus 12 inches of move for the Eagles. So it's possible for you to make it hard for the Eagles basically to get within charge range. And actually, if you're cagey with Gandalf and Aemir, you may be able to kind of engage the Eagles with force the Eagles to come in and engage your guys in a position where Aemir and Gandalf can then charge in without them being exposed to Gwahir's Screech because it's
Yes,
only
or
6 inch
or at
range.
least make it so that only one of them is hit by it.
Yeah, preferably Gandalf because he can still cast spells.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a lot of thinking out loud. Um, all right.
I'm putting them in low competitive. That's where I'm putting them. I think due to the due to the potentially good matchups they have against dominant lists, and their ability to, shoot and never really engage, and the damage they can do on the charge, I think they fit into competitive as well.
All right. I won't fight that one that strenuously.
Alisher?
I agree. I think just kind of what I've seen around Riders of Airmare, they seem good. I I just don't. I feel like something. I feel like there's something to some extent that we're missing from the perspective of like they're not performing well anywhere that I have noticed.
Are people
So
taking them?
I That's what I don't know, but I mean
they
like
they
it's
don't work at 500 points and below, and there are a lot, or probably 600 points and below, and there are a lot of small points tournaments that have been coming out.
that's fair. That's fair. I think the fact that you can only take the rider, like you can't take any elites, is somewhat problematic
Yeah,
slightly.
not having the fight five on the Royal Guard is tough.
Yeah,
But
I think
it
that's my biggest apprehension with them. But in
yeah,
any case, I think I would agree that they probably are on the lower end of competitive for sure. They're better than just playable. Like I think you should, if you're taking that, you should feel confident going into most matchups.
Riders of Theoden.
All right, Riders of Theoden. How many more?
This is the
All right,
last
yeah. This is the last movie
super.
one. Okay, Riders of Theoden. Whose turn is it? Is it mine again, or is it Alisher's?
I just did. I did Aomer's. I mean, I can go again, but I just did Aomer's.
Okay, or is it Evans? I think it's Evans
I'll
actually.
I'll do the Riders of Theoden.
All right, because we know how much you love Theoden.
Well, this is a short one. Right, so you've got Theoden, my favorite model. Um, Éomer,
Best
a good
110
model.
points you'll ever spend.
Hold on. Éomer, oh, by the way, Theoden is fully kitted out. Éomer is fully kitted out, except he can choose to take his throwing spear. Um, Eowyn, who is fully kitted out with Mary, and she can also choose to take a shield and throwing spears. Um, Gamling, who can take the Royal Standard if he wants. Um, a captain on horse, rider of Rohan, and Rohan Royal Guard with all the stuff they can take, but the Rohan Royal Guards have to be mounted. Um, so a significant decrease in the number of heroes you can take, compared to last edition, mainly because a lot of the heroes you could take in this list haven't been released yet. Um, Additional rules, needs to always contain Theoden and doesn't count towards army's bow limit, for the riders, which is the same as most lists. Ride for Ruin in the World's Ending. Friendly Rohan cavalry models gain a bonus of +1 to their strength in a turn in which they charge. Um, Death. Once per game at the start of any fight phase, Theoden can use this rule as long as he's alive on the battlefield. Each friendly Rohan hero within 12 of him can declare either a free heroic combat or a free heroic strike if they are able to during the declare heroic action step. This is an active ability belonging to Theoden. So if he's transfixed, you can't use it. Um, Final special rule, fourth Aerlingus. Um, fourth, I don't know how you pronounce that. I just said Aerlingus, which sounds like the
It's actually pretty close. I think it's Aerolingus, but if you say it quickly, it comes out like an
uh,
Irish airline.
yeah, go forth and fly your Irish airline. Friendly cavalry warrior models within 3 inches of either Theoden or Éomer gain the dominant 2 special rule. Um, so this list is quite similar to what it was last edition. The only changes are that 3 inch dominant 2 special rule, which is actually quite strong,
Yeah, I don't
especially
see
because
I
you
don't see
don't have a
AMR
lot
getting
of
that at 145 points. Do you? No,
it. Éomer does get that. It says in the rule. Both Éomer and Theoden get
it doesn't say within. Oh, yeah, it does. Never mind.
it. Anyways, that was argued like a true lawyer there, Dad. If the facts don't fit, make them up.
That's right, and then just keep repeating them, and everybody will assume it's true.
But I do think I don't know about you guys, but I think this list is decently worse than last edition, mainly because um well, partially because all of the other all-mounted lists either have sprung into existence or got better, and also because you just don't have a lot of heroes that are good in this list.
But I
Um,
think they're coming. Um,
yes, this list comes with an asterisk.
so,
Um,
with that said, though, I mean, in like 80% of the riders of Theoden lists that you had before in the old edition, the heroes that you took were Theoden, Aemir, Dernhelm, which has now become Eowyn with Mary delegated to Wargear,
yeah,
and Gamma.
and has gone up by 35 points.
Well, I
Um,
mean, she probably needed to.
Well, yes,
uh,
Dernhelm was broken as all heck in last edition. Um,
well, I mean, so the four heroes that most people took with this army last time are still here. And
yes.
what you can't do anymore is you can't like take the captain spam and have him strike,
Yep.
which you
You
used to be
also
able to do.
can't take Elfhelm and who's the Theoden's guard guy?
Airwine,
Deerwine.
yep.
Yeah. Um,
But they were always, you know, oh, I've got a few points left over, I can throw this guy in
yeah,
type
though
picks.
I'm fairly sure the Theoden's riders lists you saw be very successful. Um, Usually went a bit more hero heavy. And the lists that weren't hero heavy, I think honestly a lot of the newer um all mounted lists perform their role a bit better. Um, but I still think this list is good.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
I think it is potentially on the higher end of playable. I don't think it's competitive anymore.
I agree.
Especially not with the limited hero roster that it has.
Yeah, I think this list is probably where it needs to be. Add my additional grumble about what happens if this thing runs into a Hill Tribes list, but um, otherwise,
You heard it here first. Hill tribes are broken.
True.
certainly against Rohan they are.
Yes.
That much is true.
It's
So
also funny how hill tribes at this point at not this points level at like the points level where you would take this list, which is like 700 to 800, can get like 20 bows and outshoot this list and then
yep.
bring them towards you and then slaughter them.
That's right. I mean, the Hill Tribes against this list would be like at equivalent points levels would be like Faramir's blast charge on Asgiliath, where like
Indeed.
yeah, you'd have Aemir being like dragged back by his horse, like dangling from the saddle with 6 arrows in him or something like that. But yeah, okay, playable it is. All right, so I think here endeth the episode. We will dive into, boy, we got a lot of this left.
Tune in next time for more Rohan.
Yeah, but wait, there's more. Now we have, yeah. There's going to be at least one, perhaps two more episodes on Good Army List. We'll have to see how it goes. So
And potentially in later episodes, we might actually review non-Rohan and all-hero lists.
that's right.
Anything is possible.
Sounds
Anything
pretty
is indeed
ambitious.
possible. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you next time.